Welcome to the GSD with Jeni podcast, where we talk about how to overcome all the stuff that gets in the way of getting shit done. Imposter syndrome, fear, money, relationships, networking, building businesses. We're going to talk to experts, or as I say, mavens, that provide practical and tactical advice on how to GSD. I'm your host, Jeni Bukolt, founder and CEO of Haven Creative. Now, I started my business with $300 in a laptop and grew it to a team of Haven mavens serving clients around the world and generating over 7 figures in revenue. We were named one of the fastest growing companies in Charlotte and 2024 Crowns of Enterprise Woman-Owned Business of the Year, and I'm incredibly proud of the success we've had and to be among the 1% of woman-owned advertising agencies in the country. But I still need help too. So I started this podcast with the intent to dive deeper into the things that hold us back from achieving our goals. So thank you for joining me on this journey to GSD. Let's get started. Marketing is often filled with buzzwords and uncertainty. You either don't have clarity on what you're buying, or maybe you're trying tactics like throwing noodles against the wall to seeing what sticks. It is frustrating. And in order to GSD, to scale your business, you need clarity around your marketing. Our next guest is a maven at both. Diona is the co-founder of Nomad Digital Marketing, a 7-figure agency helping industrial businesses turn marketing into a predictable revenue engine. Diona's journey is anything but traditional. She went from a musician to self-taught programmer, launching her first web design and programming business in 2004 with just a laptop and some determination. Since then, she's built multiple businesses, including 2 e-commerce ventures, and earned an MBA from Queen's University in Charlotte. She's a former Marketer of the Year, a mentor to marketers and business leaders, and a firm believer that fear is fuel. This mindset has helped her navigate businesses, AI, and even skiing down new slopes. When she's not helping other businesses scale, you'll find her traveling with her wife, playing piano, gardening, or experimenting in the kitchen. Please welcome my friend, Diona. Welcome, Diona.
Thank you for having me on your show. So
Absolutely.
I've been listening to some of your episodes and I'm really enjoying the podcast. You have some really great guests, so I'm really honored to be included in that group.
Well, I'm excited to have you because I feel like we've been talking about this for years and people might say, what? 2 marketing agency owners? Yes. This is why this is important. We are friends in marketing because of our purpose. I really believe that you and I are aligned on the world of marketing can be really filled with buzzwords and BS and not specific, clear results. So I wanted you to talk about your expertise in the digital marketing space and how you drive results for your clients. So before we dive into all of that, I want to hear, your entrepreneurial journey and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. Gosh, I really started with a laptop and a lot of determination. I think similar to you. We started, I started with, I was a programmer at the time, and I was doing freelance work. And a mentor of mine said, hey, you should really set up a tax shelter for your freelance work. And so that's how I started my first business. And I ended up merging my first business in with Nomad, which is my current business, in 2006. And just for reference for listeners, it's currently 2025. So it's been a while. And we've gone through many iterations in that time. So we started doing open source programming. We created web applications and then got into websites. And I was thinking back as I was preparing for this interview to the time when people were saying, oh, mobile applications, that's where it's going to be at. And websites are no longer going to be relevant. We've gone through so many things. So people have pontificated about the future and said such and such is going to go away and will no longer be relevant. And it just changes. So it's just interesting to kind of observe how our industry evolves over time. And it really, I think about it as how it evolves with how we evolve as a culture. Because you think about marketing, you're engaging people, and that really ties into our culture. And so, the American culture, we have a lot of entrepreneurial drive and a lot of kind of one-upmanship and, terminology. We like to get really technical and make things complicated. And And so sometimes we can end up with a lot of complicated jargon, but really when it comes down to it, we're people talking to people and trying to connect with what their problems are and help them solve them. And that's really what an entrepreneur does. And so that's what I've done through my entire career. So we started with, problem would be, I need to connect this software to that software, and we would create intermediary software to do that. And then some of our clients said, we really need to do a website. And so we'd help them, because that started connecting to the back end softwares. And so we started building those for clients. And then we started doing more and more front end website stuff. And then we noticed, this was quite some time ago, but people would make up things about how the internet worked. And, we as programmers, we were like, it doesn't work like that. Like I remember someone saying, oh, if you got more Facebook likes, which is behind a login, then you could somehow rank better on Google. And we were like, it doesn't make any sense. But our clients were spending money on this because they didn't know. They didn't know any better. And we were just like, that is complete BS. And we didn't like what we were seeing. And so we ended up stepping into marketing because it was very technical at the time. And so we got into SEO. And then I finally found a problem that I fell in love with, and my business partner came along with me for the ride, which is, how do you connect the marketing activity to the return? And so we're early adopters of HubSpot. We met them early because I was talking to my business partner about building this crazy idea of, how do we connect the email and the social media and the different things people are doing to sales? And we ended up bumping into HubSpot. They contacted me, ended up talking to them. We became an early partner of theirs in 2010, 2011, somewhere in that time frame, and have been a partner of theirs ever since. And so we continue to work on this problem with our clients of how do you connect your activities to your sales, to your closed deals? And then now we're continuing to evolve it to how do you predict what's going to happen? Like I'm not talking, crazy statistical models and things like that. Again, you got to kind of keep it simple. But when you build a system and you see a behavior, you build the behavior into the system, like you're connecting the leads to the closed deals, you can start to learn from that data. And then you can see, do you have the right people in your marketing pool? Because everybody goes to your website still. They've gone nowhere. They are still relevant. Apps are really great, but they didn't replace websites. And so when you can see who's on your website and you can see who's engaging in your marketing, and you can get them into your CRM, and then you can connect that to your closed deals and sales, then you can see kind of how this whole system is working. And so that's kind of where we focus, and we try to keep the jargon out of it. Sometimes it's a little challenging because you have to get technical, but we try to keep it simple, and keeping things simple has been probably one of the challenges that I've had throughout my career. So like, oh, this is BS, like, oh, SEO is dead, or this is dead, or, video, long live video, like all of that is distraction.
I feel like there's a lot of agencies or people out there that specialize in a tactic, like a social media piece or one piece, but you really do have to have multiple tactics in the ecosystem of marketing, right, to drive true results. But it comes back to what you were saying. It's just about people connecting to other people and creating a simplicity so that you can have a true ROI.
Yeah. And when I've been thinking about this lately is just brand building. So, you're building the experience that people have of your company. If I was running a company, if I was one of your, maybe one of your listeners is running a company, if I were in their shoes, what would I be doing? And I was thinking this morning, one of the things I would do first, I would get my marketing and sales team together in the same room, and I'd get them collaborating and working together. I would build a marketing plan, a strategy that supports the sales team. I would start there, and then I would put some pieces in place that capture leads. So, like SEO, make sure you're visible in search, because assuming that's where your audience goes to look for you. So, really start with your audience. Where do they go? What do they need? How do you communicate with them? And that's the beginning of your brand building, and really focus on making sure you're visible where they are, and then build the brand that engages them. that aligns with what they value and build messaging that is really meaningful for them. So that then your salespeople can talk the same language as your marketing, and just make sure that that's through all the pieces that you're doing. And then that right there is just that. I mean, that's where we start with clients. So, build a plan, build the messaging, put the foundations in place, and then continue to grow it from there. And that's your brand building.
I love that you're saying that, because that's exactly where we start. I think a lot of times people want to jump into a tactic without creating that alignment first. So same thing, pull your teams together. Are we even going in the right place? Are we even selling the same thing? Sometimes marketing is selling different words than sales is selling. And we're like, hold on a second, what does your company actually do? So I love that you touched on that. I think it's imperative that anybody start with aligning the two teams and getting that message straight. Some people call it ICP, your ideal customer profile, right? These are other jargony words, but it's just like what you just said. Make sure your message is providing value for the audience you're going after. And then you're also going to get clarity on what channels they're on, right? I mean, you might not need to be on TikTok and Instagram and all these other channels just because that's what you think is the new trend, right?
Yeah. We've even had sales teams that were selling a different thing than the leadership team thought that they were selling. Yeah. So it's really important to get that connection internally before you go outside and you start spending money to try to market something.
I think that's also why I love talking with you as, both agency owners. It's just unfortunately, there's such bad reputations out there in the world of marketing of people that take advantage of a tactic and go like, yeah, all right, I'll take that money and I'll just go run it and start running a media campaign without asking the deeper question of why. Like, I love that you do that with your clients and going, you want to do this, but why? You want billboards or you want paid media? Why? And really understanding the strategy and the people behind it before you just start running a campaign.
Yeah, I think there's a low barrier of entry to our industry, sometimes to the not to the benefit of buyers, business leaders. And it's easy to hear someone say, oh, I can solve your problem. Like, in 30 days, I'm going to have this thing up and running and boom, it's going to be so fantastic. It's huge. You'll win, blah, blah, blah. And then, you end up with buyer's remorse because you really didn't put a plan together. You really didn't think through it. You just thought that you could throw money at it. And I'm a business owner. I've done it too, where I thought I could just throw money at a problem and solve it. Yeah. So we could dig into that. But
yes, really, I know. Yes. Yeah. I'm guilty of that too. The things of this 30-day promise, like I can get you leads in 30 days. Is that realistic? Can we just shoot that down right now? I mean, there are a lot of companies that will inbox you cold emails, right? Saying that they can guarantee you 30 appointments in 30 days. Is that realistic?
I have never met anyone that can do it. Even the companies that build the list for you and make the calls for you, I've never heard another business owner go, yeah, they are phenomenal, etc. I got 30 appointments in 30 days. Maybe they're out there and I just haven't met them, but they would be the unicorn.
Mm-hmm. And tell me why that is. Why does that not work?
Why does that not work? There are many reasons. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think it goes back to what you said originally is the plan. I mean, you're going after people. So I look at the brand experience. One, does your brand want to be known for the person that spams everyone in their inbox? Number one. So I don't really want a bunch of robo emails going out as representative of my brand to someone that could be a prospect, because I think it's a crappy brand experience. So that right there doesn't align with who we are as an agency. Two, we're fishing in the wrong pond. Just because you can go get prospects doesn't mean it's the right one, right? Is it qualified? Is it even what I want to go after? And is it truly communicating the value proposition of my organization? I don't think in 30 days you can understand someone's business that well in order to make those right connections.
I think unless it's something like, the only exception I could see is if like you were selling direct TV and everybody knew what direct TV was and you were just calling the homeowners, then potentially. But you and I work in more complex businesses. We work with B2B industrial firms. It's more of a relationship sell. And I know that your clients as well, it's more relationship driven. So unless it's transactional and highly transactional and everybody already knows the brand there, then it's going to be more complex than that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We're not talking about B2C. Let's talk about B2B. And since that is where really our expertise lies, like what are you seeing as the biggest shift or mind shift that business owners need to make when it comes to engaging a marketing agency for their B2B brands?
I think there's a few things, but one of them is shifting from the idea of marketing as tactic to marketing as strategy. Because marketing is really is the function of how your business goes about acquiring customers. And it needs to work very closely with sales. It's not just the person that orders the hats and the t-shirts and sets up the trade show booth. If you're,
Right.
so if that's your viewpoint of marketing, it's not wrong. I'm not going to say it's wrong. It's just limited. It's very limited. And you're really missing out on the opportunity to support your sales team and make them more effective.
And if I say brand, it's not a logo and a tagline.
Yeah. It's the whole experience. It's the messaging. It's how you engage them. It even includes what kind of trade shows that you turn up at and what kind of channels you turn up in. The other one is, there is no magic bullet. There's no special tactic. AI is not going to solve this. There's no easy button where you can just, throw some money at it and have it solved. And, it's really part of your business. And when you're hiring an agency, you're hiring their expertise to support you and your business. You're not like chucking it over the wall and then you're going to evaluate them in 30, 60, or 90 days and then, fire them and get another one if it doesn't work. Really, marketing is part of your business, whether you have someone in charge of it or not. If you are acquiring customers, you are marketing.
Right. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think there's also a misconception, like you said, the one shot, I just throw some money at this, in 30 days, I'm going to see results, or 90 days, I'm going to see results. We often set our clients up to say, like, it does take 12 to 18 months for a solid branding and communications program. I mean, it's not saying you're not going to see results before then, but it does take time and effort. Is that kind of aligned with what you're thinking too?
Yeah. And I would add to that, look for quick wins. We're always looking for quick wins. So there are quick wins you can do. There's some low-hanging fruit when you go and you look at your customer and you understand how they want to be communicated to and where salespeople are getting the most friction. You can find low-hanging fruit in there. So you don't have to wait, 12, 18 months for any kind of progress. But this is a long-term effort, as you are pointing out. It's part of your business just as much as sales is part of your business. But as you mature as a business, it becomes something that you have to be more intentional about. Early on in your business, you hire a sales guy, woman, whatever, you put them to work, and that's as far as you have to go. But as you're maturing and growing your business, different parts of your business, from sales to client services, operations, delivery, and marketing, they have to evolve and mature as well. And so I think that's an important thing to consider as a business leader is, where are you in that process? And do you need to mature the marketing part of your business to make it more intentional and more developed? Really, I just can't emphasize it enough, like integrating it with your sales team.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that you've got to think about where your growth goals are, and just what got you here might not be the thing that gets you to that next level. And sometimes I see like, well, we want to grow 50% next year, but we have no more money for marketing. Or we're not going to try any new paid media. We're going to pull back, which completely doesn't align with where we're trying to go with our growth goals or where verticals we're going into. You've got to kind of match those efforts.
Yeah, I could see sometimes, I have seen where a business can grow substantially through operations, like selling to existing customers. And to your point, it's like, what is your goal? Are you looking, like, how are you going to grow? Are you going to sell a new product to your existing customers? Well, I mean, that's still marketing, but it's marketing to existing customers. So maybe the budget for that isn't as high because you can do a lot of that through operations. But if you're looking to acquire, let's say you've got an existing product to a new market, you've got to figure out how to communicate to that new market. What are the channels? And you've got to do a bit of experimentation. I would say that's another thing to kind of shift. No one has the answer, because if they did, you would not be able to compete. Someone would already have it locked up. But you've got to kind of experiment with your audience and figure out what works for them. And so you've got to have a little bit of flexibility when it comes to how you market, and try things, but try experiments that are limited in risk and budget. Like, for instance, you bring up paid advertising. Maybe that's a good fit. maybe you set aside some funds and run an experiment. Maybe your people are really hard to reach. Let's say that you target engineers or procurement people, and the easiest way to reach them is on LinkedIn, if you discover that. And then the way that we like to approach it is create a campaign that's going to be a pilot and pilot that and see, can we reach them? And then set some goals for that, some initial goals, some achievable goals. Like you can't go, okay, and I'm going to, book, 100 new clients in 90 days. And, it needs to be achievable. First, it's engagement. And then later it's conversion into a conversation. And I think also marketers, we need to be very mindful that our job is to create conversations and set appointments for salespeople.
Yes,
we
thank you.
cannot forget that. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's conversations and connections. Yes. I think there's a struggle between sales and marketing because sales is always saying, well, you're not giving me qualified leads. And my position is marketing is bringing connections and conversations, but it's your job as a salesperson to close the lead. But there's some disagreements and gray areas when it comes to that. What are your thoughts around, promising lead as a marketer?
It's interesting because a salesperson might tell you marketing people are not held accountable like I am. If I don't hit my quota, then I don't get my bonus, but marketing gets paid regardless. And so there's a natural kind of friction because of the incentive between those two groups. So I think what leadership could do is look at how could you align incentives.
That's a great idea.
You start reducing the friction between the two groups, sent them similarly. Now, marketing people are not going to work on this, quota probably, but you could find something that would work for them. And then you got to get agreement between the two groups. Like, what is a qualified lead for sales? And then what will happen if sales talks to that person and it's a not right now? That's what I like to call it, a not right now. And then if it's a not right now, then what is marketing going to do to take care of the not right now, to nurture them until it is time for them? And if it is a no, never, they're not they're not an ideal customer. They don't fit our profile. They don't have the kind of budget and they never will. And then that's truly a different conversation, but you're always going to get some of those. So it can't be that like, if you get a few of those, that marketing is not doing its job or marketing is not functioning. You're always going to get them. So you've got to be reasonable and work on joint goals together. So what is sales and marketing? If you do joint KPIs, what might those look like? And if you can get the two groups working on joint KPIs and get the incentives aligned, then I think you'll have a much more, my experience has been, those groups tend to produce more revenue.
Which goes back to exactly what you were saying from the beginning. Pull the people in the room together, get sales and marketing to agree and align on what is a lead and what's a prospect, how we're going to go to market, what makes us unique, what are we selling, set those goals together. And I think what you're saying there is more of that team mentality. So you're selling together instead of it being so siloed. And I do think that's part of a struggle in organizations. They're all siloed these days, and just breaking those down to get them to communicate so they can make better connections.
Yeah.
I want to shift
I think
for a minute.
Marketers could reach out to sales and just have one-on-one conversation. Like, they're not beholden to leadership.
Right.
To build those relationships. So
I always like to say it always comes back to communication, right?
Yeah. And relationships. Yeah. And that's another reason why you can't just hire a 20-something-year-old out of college. Sure, they're not as expensive as a more seasoned professional, but you need a seasoned professional that's going to oversee this, be strategic, build the relationships, and make sure all the pieces are working together. Otherwise, you're going to end up with someone that just does tactics, which is kind of random acts of marketing. And then you'll be upset as to why it's not working. And I mean, we've seen this time and time again.
Yes, that's funny that you just said that, the random acts of marketing. I said that recently. It's like throwing noodles on the wall to see what sticks. So marketing is testing, like you said, running pilots, but with the strategy in mind. Like, where are we going, and trying to align that, not just let's try it all because it sounded cool and it's a new tactic that just popped in the market.
Yeah, I think that the thing that people miss, and I did myself for a while, is that you've got to think of it in layers. So there's the business strategy, and then you've got the go-to-market plan, like how are you going to acquire customers? That drives your marketing plan. And then you've also got your sales plan that goes along with that.
Mhm.
And then after that, you've got your digital strategy. So if you think of it as kind of subsets, we're
Yep.
heavy on digital, but we need to understand what the business strategy is. And I've done this myself where I've not communicated my business strategy to my employees that are doing our marketing. And what I've found is the more that you create a through line between those different layers of your planning, the more effective it's going to be. But make sure your marketer understands your business strategy. It helps tremendously.
I'm glad you said that too. And I think that it's hard for someone on the outside to see the difference between agencies. And I know that like you and I first began talking and you're like, we're heavy on digital and we're heavy on branding and messaging. But from the outside, someone who doesn't know, it's all marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk a little bit about the difference in those things or just how we as marketers have to tie all of them together? Because I noticed like you can't do a great campaign if you don't have the messaging, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely. That's hard for people that are hiring agencies. And, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing when you're hiring an agency to begin with. Because you have choices. You could hire someone full time to work inside your company. Sometimes it is more cost effective and you get a lot of experience very quickly by outsourcing it, which is when you're hiring an agency. And when you're hiring an agency, it's not unlike hiring a person. You still have to go through the hiring process and vet them.
Yep.
No one has a magic bullet, and you want to look at what their experience is.
Yes, exactly that too. And sometimes, so let's say if you were just looking at our two agency on the outside, most of the time people come to us for the PR side of things, right? So they're wanting to get more brand awareness and get in the media, which is very different than now I need to run my HubSpot, my digital campaigns. I need the SEO, which I believe Nomad is experts at. Is that correct?
Yeah, we build that whole system.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're experts at building that system. We've been doing that for, 10, 15 years now.
Which is what I said in your bio. You're the revenue growth engine, right?
Yeah, yes, exactly. And we can't do that without messaging. So there's some overlap in what your agency and our agency does. But if you were to expect us to go do earned media, I mean, we do a little bit of it.
Find a partner, right?
Yeah. And we have relationships in our industry that we specialize in. Like I know the folks over certain media houses, but that's not our specialty. And we're not great at doing that for anyone outside of this specific industrial industry that we focus in.
I think what's great though about if you're evaluating an agency, like you said, you're interviewing them just like you would an employee and making sure you just both sides set up very clear expectations and outcome goals before you go into an engagement with that particular agency partner. I often also say, to look at the leadership to see what those expertise are. I mean, it's very clear for us. It's creative, it's branding, it's that messaging. And when you land on Nomad, you can see it's the digital, it's the lead gen, it's the strategy behind the digital effort. So I think that helps.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting because our agencies evolve, right? As we're getting deeper into the industry that we're focused in, the industrials, we are getting deeper into the publications. We're getting deeper into offline marketing because we need to combine that with the digital. So, we're supporting our clients when they go to a trade show. Now, we're not the ones to hire to do your trade show experience. We're not experience marketers, so we don't do that. But if you needed a background designed, my designer can certainly do that. It's like many things that you hire. You've got to figure out where the edges are with an agency. And what have they done for someone else? Where's the evidence that their claim is true, that they could help you with, such and such?
Yes. So what you're just saying too, the niche. So I've always said, throw a rock, hit a marketing agency. Someone claims they can do everything. But what we're finding is when we niche as agencies, like we're doing the aftermarket automotive, and really leaning into that side of things, we know the buyer and knows what works with that particular buyer and that distributor model. Would you say that also gives you an edge with industrial manufacturing?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. We work with a lot of specialty, well, not just specialty chemical, but chemical companies. So we understand that industry and what the buyers are looking for and where they go to look for information and how they buy. And we work with some other particular material science divisions. So we understand that as well.
And I
So
think that
it
gives you a
makes a
huge leg up.
huge difference.
Yeah. Well, now your client partner is not having to spend as much time and effort because you already know what doesn't work or what does work in your space.
And that's part of the experience that you're buying. So when
Yep.
whether you're hiring someone or you're hiring an agency, and the difference with agencies, you get a whole group for a price. But either way, you've got to look at what their experience is and what are they bringing to the table. So, because you're trying to shortcut what you're doing. Otherwise, you could just build it all on your own and it would take longer. But if you hire people that have experience, how much can they shortcut the work so you can get to market quicker and see your results quicker?
Yep. All great advice on how to really find the perfect agency partner for your business to help you, I would say, GSD faster. So want to shift for a moment because you touched on it with AI. We hear all these things about how AI is going to put us all out of business. Would love to hear your perspective and how you see AI as being either a tool for efficiency or something that could potentially harm us as marketers.
Yeah. So this topic sometimes requires a little bit of meditation to take a deep breath. Because it can be scary depending on the topic around AI. Regards to marketing, it is absolutely making us more efficient.
I agree.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that's what to focus on, because here's my opinion right now with AI is if you're just focusing on the efficiency, you're missing the point. I think that the point right now is to look at quality. Are you getting better quality using those tools? Now we're, really big advocates of starting with an AI council. So internally, we have built an AI council and we built an AI policy because your employees are going to use AI, whether you talk to them about it or not. And the question becomes, are you going to just let that happen naturally and then deal with the outcome whenever it happens? Or are you going to be intentional about it and train them how you want them to use it and how you don't want them to use it? So for us, we have confidential information for our clients. And so we've trained our staff on which tools can you use and what kind of information can you put in there and what not to put in there. And that continues to evolve, which is why we have a council around this, which started with my business partner, myself, and a couple of other employees. And now every employee has joined in because we're small. There's 8 of us total. At some point, we've just got an open door on our council meeting. And at some point, all of them will join because it's regularly scheduled. And so they know when it is. And we'll do lunch and learns. We just did one this past Monday where we watched a presentation by Ethan Malik from the Marketing AI Institute conference. And I think it was 2023. But he was just continuing that education with our team. I think that's just really important. People are using AI for different purposes. And what we're using it for is to find efficiencies and get ahead of what our clients will need so that we can have these conversations with our clients when they're ready for it. A lot of them are not ready for it yet, but we're getting ahead of that. For instance, one of our clients, their IT team, came to us recently and said, we think we're going to stop recording meetings because of AI, and because people can take that and put it in AI. And it's a very valid concern. So it's understanding these concerns and being prepared to have conversations around it. And we're continuing this conversation. So far, we haven't had to stop recording because recording is very useful for us because we can listen, we can interview, and then we can create content using that. And so it's just, I think we've got to lean in, even when it's scary. Just got to lean in and be curious about it. And then when you need to take a deep breath, because AI is a little scary, take a deep breath, take a little meditation moment, and talk to other people about what they're thinking about as well. And then just be in conversation around it. That's my thoughts around AI. That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. I think if you're not leaning in and being curious, you're going to be left behind. And we're not still using an abacus to do math. We evolved to calculators and then we evolved to computers. And to me, AI is just another tool to be more efficient, but we still need the strategist behind it on how to prompt it to get the things out of it that we need. Like you said, the quality of the content is important. I love that you're putting guardrails around it. I think there are organizations, some large ones here in Charlotte, that completely ban their employees from using it, which I think is a lost opportunity because you are losing that efficiency in ways that you can use it. So I love that you are intentionally going about, here's how you can use it. And then also here's how you can be safe on it. Because back to your point, if you're going into Chat GPT and putting stuff into the chat without doing a private chat, you're putting all that business's personal information out there.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's important to understand what's going on and how is it evolving, and having a team around that is a great idea.
Imagine that you had like one of these really large businesses. How do you roll out AI to 30,000 employees? You know, I can understand that they're taking a minute for that.
Yeah.
But again, how do you really ban it? I mean, you know, if you have control of the laptop, let's say you're a bank and you issue laptops and you have control of the laptop, it doesn't stop someone from going over here to their private machine and putting the information in the Chat GPT. So the conversation, I think, is just key.
Yes. So aside from AI, what other kind of shifts are you seeing in digital marketing since you started Nomad?
Well, I mean, it's been a minute, so there's been a lot of shifts.
Okay, let's talk about within the last year or two. But I guess besides AI, what could there be, right?
Well, there's the impact of AI on SEO.
Oh, right. You know what? I would love for you to talk about that because I hear it's going to obliterate any kind of organic search anymore. So talk to me about AI and SEO.
That's what we hear. Just like websites were no longer going to be a thing, we're hearing that SEO is no longer going to be a thing, or that the AI can do it.
Yeah, shit. Let's talk about it.
Maybe. I don't know. We have seen a decline in just overall in the world for search volume. Like you can look at HubSpot. They have a great case study where their organic search traffic has declined. It made a really great case for building a brand, which we talked about earlier. And you got to think about where your people go. So podcasts are really more popular now than they've ever been. And so is organic search going to go away? I don't think so. But I reserve the right to change my mind as this evolves. I'm continuing to watch it too. But right now, I don't see that happening. But it's going to continue to change, and we've got to just stay up with what the change is. And when we're looking at our agencies and how we help our clients market, really, again, it goes back to their buyers and how do they look for information. And if that is changing, we need to be in conversation with them. So I'm noticing a theme here as I'm talking, conversations. And so, being in communication with them about how they're looking for information. That when we're doing our message development and our strategy for clients, we interview their customers. Yeah. And that informs so much. And, I think that is not a one and done thing. You need to revisit that and also get information. Your salespeople are talking to them regularly, and your operations people are talking to your customers. So, how do you, and I don't have the answer to this. The question for a business is, how do you gather this information? How do you feed that information into the organization? And then leverage that information to continue to engage your customers the way that they want to be engaged.
It goes back to what you're saying in the beginning, though. The more that we as agency owners can understand the buyers in the industries we work in, the more expertise we have around that, the more we can help our clients to connect with them in the places where they are getting their information. To your point, a lot of our buyers are out in the off-road industry, in a vehicle on the dunes. They're not using ChatGPT to find information, but an engineer in your space might be looking somewhere else. So it's great to have a partner who really understands the buyer to help provide that insight. And then, like you said, how you gather that data is important.
Yeah, I'm curious, and this is kind of where my head is going for like what's next. Is how do you do attribution? How do you see what are all the things that they interact with? And it'll never be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you could really kind of follow them and their entire journey, not just, they went to Google and they clicked on this thing and saw this ad, but, they also talked to the salesperson and they called in to customer service and they, all those different things. Organizationally, it's huge. It's complex. I get it. But I think that's where larger organizations are more skilled at that. And I think we're going to have to go more downstream as there are more and more places for a buyer to go for information.
Oh, yeah.
I think eventually this will become easier for mid-market organizations to do so that they can then kind of better understand their audience. But until you've got that, all you've got is conversations and the data that you've got in your system. So you've got to have someone that understands how to look at all of that and make sense of it. Otherwise, you'll end up, going down a rabbit hole.
Yes, but you're right. I mean, there's a lot of qualitative data over quantitative data of those conversations. And I think that's something that some business owners miss is the multi-touch attribution. Back to what you just said. Someone might have had a conversation with a sales rep, also saw a Google ad, also happened to see you on a listing, and then they decided to connect. It's not one thing that usually brings them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. And that's why even if organic SEO isn't as much as it used to be at some point for someone's organization, it's still not going to go away because people don't change very readily. And we've been doing organic search for however long we've been doing that, probably, 20, 30 years now. I don't know. I'm not doing the math on it, but, people don't change that much. And as long as if you can track it back and you can look at that channel and see what it's contributing, and then sometimes you just have to do a little bit of intuiting to understand what's important and, and have the qualitative in addition to the quantitative. So, and put somebody in charge of that. That's why you have a marketer.
Absolutely. And sometimes you got to FAFO a little bit. Yeah. FAFO. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of, that'd be my one tip for business owners. Sometimes you've got to FAFO. What's one tough lesson you've learned as a leader that maybe you could share with someone else who's listening to this when it comes to either marketing or scaling their business? What would be that one piece of advice?
The most recent one I learned is don't design the job for the people. Design the job and then find the people. Sometimes I can do that and I don't realize I'm doing it. Like, I make little tweaks to make it easier for someone. And there's some fine line between, designing the job as it needs to be done to get the whatever accomplished and, designing the job for the person. And I have sometimes gone a little bit too far in designing it for the person, not wanting to realize that, maybe the person that got us here is not the person that'll get us there. So, and that's hard because it's people.
Really great feedback. I think people are probably one of the hardest things about business. That could be employees or clients.
Yeah. We're difficult. People are complex.
People are complex. And yes, designing the job that needs to be, the job description for the job that needs to be done, not a job description for the person, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's my most recent one. I've got many over the years, but that's my most recent one.
No, that is a good one. And if you are trying to start an agency, connect with other people that are doing it right. I think that one of my favorite things is talking with you over the years, because if I'm going to lose work to anyone, I'd rather it be to another agency who's taking care of their people and doing marketing the right way. And I think we can get a lot out of our conversations from each other. That's why I appreciate it, our partnership, our friendship.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so one last question. I feel like I forgot to prep you for this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Look, if you've heard the podcast, then you should know this by now. We have a Get Shit Done playlist, and it's all about the songs that help people get excited before you walk in the room. Maybe what would be your one hype song that we should put on that playlist?
Mine is like when I get in the car and I'm getting ready to go do something that I'm really excited about, but I need to pump myself up. Like I'm going to a meeting I'm excited about. I'll play U2, It's a Beautiful Day. And that's just,
yeah. Sing it now. Let's go ahead and sing it.
Let me see. I just remember the chorus. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah. We should stick to marketing.
Yeah.
We should not sing. My friend, good conversation. I feel like we're going to do another one soon. I feel like this needs a part 2. For now, we're going to wrap it up. So thank you so much for joining me on this GSD podcast.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks for listening to GSD with Jeni. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. For more ways to GSD, you can also find me on LinkedIn at Jeni Bukolt, where you can sign up for my Maven Mindset newsletter, or follow me on Instagram at Maven Jeni. Until next time, go GSD, Mavens!